My fiancée, Jessica, disappeared just before our wedding, turning me into a subject of pity and gossip overnight. Months passed before I saw her again. When I did, she was noticeably pregnant, gently touching her belly. "Relax," she told me calmly. "You're the father." "I had a vasectomy, remember?" I reminded her, the words feeling cold and distant. "My parents need a boy to carry on the family name," she replied, as if that explained everything. I took off the engagement ring she had once given me, dropped it onto the pavement, heard it skitter towards a nearby drain, and walked away without looking back. Jessica seemed confident that I would eventually come back to her, unable to resist the history we shared. That confidence probably wavered when news articles started appearing about a wealthy heiress being seen visiting an OBGYN clinic with a relatively unknown man-me. The heiress, Sophia, proudly confirmed the rumors. "Yes, we're having a baby." Reports said Jessica reacted poorly, causing a disturbance at the maternity center after retrieving the ring she'd fished from the drain, desperately begging me to marry her. That scene, however, comes later in the sequence of events as they unfolded for me. It started when I received an unexpected invitation. When I arrived at the designated hotel suite, I found Jessica settled comfortably next to another man, Leo. She looked small and content, one hand resting on her slight baby bump, the other held gently by her mother, who sat nearby along with Leo's parents. Jessica's expression was a mixture of shyness and satisfaction. She saw me enter, and her eyes briefly narrowed before she smoothed her expression, acting as if nothing unusual was happening. Leo and both sets of parents acknowledged my arrival. Leo protectively tightened his arm around Jessica, a clear gesture of possession. "Mark, come in, have a seat," Jessica's mother said, breaking the silence with forced casualness. I managed a small, humorless smile, walked further into the room, and let my gaze rest on Jessica's stomach. "Wow," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Is this a practice run for future happy family dinners?" My fiancée, the woman I had devoted years of my life to, had vanished for months without a word, only to reappear pregnant with someone else's child, and now she and her mother were inviting me for a cozy chat. It felt surreal. Jessica frowned, reacting as though my words were unfair, as if I were the one being unreasonable. Her mother, however, remained composed. "Mark," she began, "since you're here and you know, I won't try to hide the situation. In our family, having heirs, particularly a male heir, is extremely important. I know you and Jessica were engaged." She paused deliberately. "But if you're unable to provide a son, well, I can't realistically welcome you into our family under those circumstances." Jessica sat quietly, implicitly agreeing with her mother. After a moment, she added, looking at me, "Don't worry. To everyone else, you'll still be the father. We have so much history, after all." She seemed to believe my long-standing affection for her would make this arrangement acceptable. We had been the golden couple back in school. Her, the popular girl from a wealthy family. Me, the determined kid from a modest background. I had worked relentlessly to build a stable career, something I felt I needed before I could possibly propose and offer her a secure future. She had always disliked using protection, complaining it was uncomfortable. I couldn't persuade her to take birth control pills, not wanting to affect her health. So, after we first became intimate, I made the decision to get a vasectomy, thinking it was the responsible choice until we were married and ready for children. She had been upset at the time and tried to forbid it. I reassured her that the procedure was reversible, that we could have it reversed whenever she wanted kids after we were married. Under the stars one night, she had promised she would never betray me. But then, just as things were falling into place for our wedding, she disappeared. I searched frantically for her, nearly losing my mind, only for her to return pregnant by Leo, casually suggesting I take on the role of father. The way she and her mother presented it, it felt like they thought they were offering me some kind of generous opportunity. Leo's expression flickered with envy and resentment for a moment, before he schooled it back into his usual gentle look, turning to joke softly with Jessica. I felt no inclination to accept their bizarre proposal. "No need," I stated plainly. I twisted the engagement ring off my finger and tossed it onto the carpet. It landed with a soft thud, yet the silence it created in the large suite felt loud. Jessica stared at me, shocked. "Mark, are you serious? That ring was my mother's." Her mother's composure finally broke. She set down her teacup, her annoyance clear. "Mark, is this how your parents raised you to behave?" I met her gaze directly. "Auntie, how my family raised me is no longer your concern, but perhaps you should reflect on how you raised your daughter." Before I could finish, Jessica slammed her hand on the table. "Mark, how dare you speak to my mother like that? If that ring means nothing to you, fine. Plenty of other men would be grateful for it. Don't come crying back to me later." In a fit of anger, she picked up the ring from the floor and dramatically slid it onto Leo's finger. Leo looked overjoyed, holding her hand tightly, tears welling in his eyes. Watching this whole ridiculous scene unfold, I felt strangely calm. Years of devotion seemed to have been worn away by these repeated disappointments. I didn't argue or make a scene. I simply turned around and walked out of the hotel suite. After leaving, I drove aimlessly for a while before heading to a place I hadn't visited in years: the local racetrack. When I was younger, I had dreamed of becoming a race car driver. People often dismissed it as an unrealistic hobby. Then, a family tragedy struck, and I lost almost everything. A call from Jessica during that dark time felt like a lifeline, and I fell completely in love with her. Jessica, being an only child, came with the expectation that her future husband would essentially join her family, taking a secondary role. It was a difficult condition for most men, but I loved her, so I agreed without hesitation, believing our love could overcome any obstacle. Her father began mentoring me in the family business, and I learned quickly, leveraging my own past experiences. I remember Jessica telling me that racing was too dangerous. "You have me now," she'd said softly. "We have a future together. Please don't race anymore. It's for your own good." Her words felt like precious wisdom back then, and I gave up racing completely. My ambitions narrowed solely to loving her and building a life with her. Why revisit those old dreams now? Yet, there I was. I walked up to the registration desk and asked to rent their highest-performing car available. A bald, middle-aged man behind the counter eyed me skeptically. "Kid, you sure you know how to handle one of these?" Without replying, I placed a premium black credit card on the counter. In the garage, a sleek red F4 race car awaited. As my hands gripped the steering wheel, a surge of adrenaline and excitement, feelings I hadn't experienced in a long time, coursed through me. "It's been too long, old friend," I murmured. I pressed the accelerator, and the car roared out of the garage onto the track. I vaguely heard gasps from onlookers, but my focus was entirely on the asphalt ahead. Suddenly, another race car, a silver F4 just as powerful as mine, shot past me, missing my car by inches. My heart pounded, not with fear, but with exhilaration. I instinctively adjusted my steering, ready for the challenge. The silver car stayed close, sometimes leading, sometimes trailing, our speeds blurring the scenery. On the final lap, we were perfectly side by side, pushing towards the finish line. The sharp smell of fuel filled the air. It had been years since I felt so intensely alive. After crossing the finish line, I took off my helmet, breathing hard. I glanced over at the silver car beside me. The driver removed their helmet too. It was Sophia. When she recognized me, she raised an elegant eyebrow. "Well, well, why aren't you trailing Jessica around like a lost puppy today? Decided to experience some real excitement for a change." "Don't mention her name," I replied curtly. "It feels tainted." Sophia paused, her expression shifting slightly. "You finally found out?" "Found out what?" I asked, confused by her implication. She covered her mouth as if stopping a chuckle, but I understood. It seemed everyone in our social circle knew about Jessica's situation but me. I consciously unclenched my fists, took a deep breath, and looked back at Sophia. Want to go another lap? Sophia shook her head. You're not in the right state of mind for something this risky right now. She leaned closer, resting a hand lightly on my arm, her voice dropping to a whisper near my ear. I know a very nice hotel nearby. Interested in a different kind of ride? Even in my slightly dazed state, her meaning was clear. Sophia smiled slyly, her tongue briefly touching her lip. Afraid Jessica will find out? Sophia had a reputation for being aloof and unapproachable. Many hopeful suitors had learned this the hard way, leading to rumors about her preferences. Her directness surprised me. Sensing my hesitation, she didn't wait for an answer. She gently pushed me towards her car, fastened my seatbelt, and with a powerful roar of the engine, we left the racetrack behind. On the way to the hotel, Sophia drove with even more speed and precision than she had on the track. Once inside our room, she wasted no time, pinning me gently against the wall and beginning to unbutton my shirt. Aren't we moving a bit fast? I managed to murmur, my voice hoarse. Seeing my slight hesitation, her eyes seemed to darken for a moment. Mark? She whispered, then laughed softly, a mischievous glint in her eyes. She leaned in again, her warm breath near my ear. I'll take that as a yes. Her presence was intoxicating as she kissed me, and I responded, deepening the kiss without conscious thought. We ended up on the large, soft bed, senses blurring. Amidst the passion, I was aware of her quickened breaths and the strong beat of her heart against mine. Mark! She breathed my name, her voice trembling slightly. I guided her gently, discovering an unexpected compatibility, a connection that felt both intense and natural. We spent the entire night together, lost in each other, sometimes gentle, sometimes turbulent, clinging to one another. In the morning, I woke first, finding Sophia asleep peacefully in my arms. For a moment, I felt disoriented. Then my phone rang, breaking the quiet. It was Jessica. Don't forget the charity auction is today, she said casually, as if our dramatic encounter the previous day hadn't happened. Get ready and come over. It was almost funny that she'd call now. I guessed her new partner, Leo, wasn't considered suitable for high-profile public events, and she still expected me to play the role of her presentable fiancé. I scoffed internally. Jessica, I said clearly, have you forgotten? I ended our engagement yesterday. We are finished. Jessica sounded momentarily surprised, then dismissive. What's wrong with your voice? Were you drinking last night? Her tone sharpened suddenly, almost screeching. Who are you with? Amused by her audacity, I hung up without answering. Beside me, Sophia stirred, looking slightly troubled. She perhaps thought I was using her as a rebound to spite Jessica. Why waste your time on that drama queen Jessica? She murmured. You're overthinking it, I replied gently. Sophia looked at me seriously, her long eyelashes casting shadows on her cheeks. All those years you spent with Jessica, was it really just about family connections and obligations? She was partly right. Our youthful connection had sustained me for a long time, but the romantic love I once felt had eroded completely. Sensing my silence, Sophia spoke again, a playful tone returning to her voice. Speaking of alliances, how about considering one with my family? Her family name alone carried significant weight. Before I could fully process her suggestion, Sophia pulled me out of bed. Where are we going? I asked. She smiled. To the auction. Outside the auction venue, we saw Leo clinging anxiously to Jessica's arm. I overheard Jessica's friend, Amy, asking cautiously, Did your fiancé really break things off? Jessica's face immediately darkened. Leo rolled his eyes at the mention of fiancé, clearly annoyed. Amy quickly tried to backtrack. No way, he's always been crazy about you. He was probably just trying to get attention. Besides, without your family's support, he wouldn't get anywhere. Jessica's expression softened slightly, but then she saw me arrive with Sophia on my arm. Her mouth opened as if to speak, but she froze, her gaze fixed on Sophia. Then she exploded. "Mark! You dare bring your mistress here to flaunt her in front of me?" Her voice was loud enough to make several heads turn in our direction. I noticed Leo hide a fleeting smirk before putting on a concerned expression. Quite the actor. I let out a cold laugh and looked directly at Jessica. "Jessica, we broke up. Who I am with now shouldn't concern you, right?" Jessica seemed genuinely shocked by my firm tone, and the public confirmation that our engagement was truly over, leaving no ambiguity. Her attention then shifted to Sophia. Recognizing her, Jessica's face paled slightly, but she still blustered, "Sophia, you're just an opportunistic rat. I'll tell my mother, and she'll complain to your parents." Her resorting to threats involving her mother highlighted how immature she still was. Meanwhile, Leo, apparently unaware of Sophia's prominent family background, foolishly chimed in, "Do you know who you're dealing with? You'll regret crossing her." Sophia paid him no attention, focusing her icy gaze on Jessica. "Opportunistic? Anyone else might say that to me, Jessica, but not you." Hearing this, Jessica visibly gulped, looking as if Sophia had struck a nerve. I was puzzled. I knew Sophia and Jessica had once been close friends before some unknown incident caused a rift between them. Curious, I asked Sophia, "What do you mean by that?" But just then, the auction started, and we headed inside. The seating arrangement was somewhat awkward, with Sophia and me placed next to Jessica and Leo in the front row. I ignored their hostile glares. The auction featured various rare items, with bids climbing rapidly. Nothing particularly interested me until the final item was presented. A jade thumb ring from a specific historical era, described as having belonged to royalty. Its craftsmanship was exquisite, captivating the room. "Starting bid, 5 million, the auctioneer announced. I noticed Leo's eyes light up. He clasped Jessica's arm excitedly. "Jessica, I love that ring. Imagine how impressive it would look at our wedding." It seemed Jessica's pregnancy had given him a certain amount of influence over her. Playing along, Jessica promptly bid, 5.5 million. I smirked inwardly. Jessica was willing to spend lavishly on her new lover, something she had never done for me, despite the years I spent working multiple jobs to support her lifestyle. Lost in thought, I was startled when Sophia suddenly placed a bid. 6 million. I hadn't known she was interested in antiques. Turning to her, she just gave me a casual shrug. Jessica's face hardened, and she shot Sophia a venomous look before increasing her bid to 7 million. Sophia coolly countered with 8 million. The price escalated quickly, soon surpassing 10 million. Sweat began to bead on Jessica's forehead. She was clearly reaching her financial limit. 15 million, Sophia declared calmly. Jessica finally gave up, dropping her hand in defeat, her face livid. Leo looked equally furious. Sophia added a final touch, waving the ring box slightly towards them with a smug smile. "Better luck next time," she murmured. Jessica's face flushed with anger, and Leo's jaw tightened. Sophia slid the box into her purse, a faint, unreadable smile playing on her lips. After the auction, we left promptly, only to be stopped outside by Jessica. "What now?" I asked, not hiding my irritation. "Mark, you never used to be this cold to me," she whined, attempting to sound hurt. "What do you want, Jessica?" I pressed, having no patience for reminiscing. "Mark," she said, her eyes wide with feigned earnestness. "When you threw away our engagement ring earlier, I was actually bidding on this jade ring for you today, but that malicious woman snatched it away." Leo, standing beside her, looked even more uncomfortable, as if he had swallowed something unpleasant. He seemed to want to confront me, but held back, likely due to Jessica's presence. "Consistent in your storytelling, aren't you, Jessica?" Sophia interjected, her tone carrying a clear warning. Jessica seemed to shrink under Sophia's gaze and said nothing more. Sophia ignored her, took my arm firmly, conveying a sense of possession, and led me away. Surprisingly, she drove us directly to the airport. "Where are we going?" I asked. "To chase every dream," she replied with a mysterious smile. We ended up in England, which boasted some of the world's most advanced racing facilities. Sophia stayed with me, supporting my renewed focus on training. One day, as I was navigating a particularly sharp curve at high speed, another car suddenly lost control and veered directly towards me from the sidetrack. My heart leaped into my throat. My reflexes felt too slow. "Mark!" Sophia's voice shouted through my headset. Incredibly, she accelerated, maneuvering her own car with astonishing speed and skill to position it between mine and the out-of-control vehicle. There was a horrific screech of metal on metal, sparks flying. The impact sent my car spinning, eventually crashing into a safety barrier. Amidst the chaos, my car came to a stop. The sound of my own rapid breathing filled my ears, confirming I was still alive. I quickly unbuckled my seatbelt and stumbled out, rushing toward Sophia's car. The front end was severely crumpled. Sophia was slumped against the driver's seat, looking pale, with a trickle of blood running down her forehead from a cut. Seeing her like that, tears sprang to my eyes. "Sophia, are you okay?" I yelled, my voice trembling as I fumbled with the damaged car door. Sophia managed to lift her head weakly. When she saw I was unharmed, a faint smile touched her lips. She slowly reached out her hand, pressing a small ring box into my palm. "Don't lose the ring," she whispered. My heart constricted. Even in that critical moment, she had held on to the ring box. I opened it and saw the exquisite jade ring from the auction nestled inside. Tears flowed freely now. Sophia weakly raised her hand and gently wiped a tear from my cheek. Then, she carefully slipped the jade ring onto my finger. This time I didn't resist. At the hospital, Sophia was treated for a fractured left hand and the cut on her forehead, but thankfully her injuries weren't life-threatening. I had only minor scratches, but Sophia insisted I undergo a full medical checkup just in case. While waiting for my results, my phone rang. It was Jessica again. "Hello?" she began, her tone laced with condescension. "I know you're just with Sophia to spite me, but I don't really care. By the way, where have you been lately? I haven't seen you around." I was momentarily speechless. "First," I said, my voice tight, "don't call me hello as if you don't know who I am. Second, where I go is none of your business, Jessica. There is nothing between us anymore. Please stop bothering me." Jessica, however, sounded amused, misinterpreting my anger as jealousy. "Oh, come on. Are you upset because I introduced Leo to my parents? Seriously, Mark, you're overreacting. You've met my parents countless times. Why throw a tantrum over something so trivial? If meeting my parents means so much to you, how about we throw a welcome party for you when you get back? We can all celebrate as a family. How does that sound?" I laughed, a harsh, angry sound. "Jessica, if you're mentally unwell, please seek professional help. Honestly, even the most determined gold digger couldn't unearth the level of delusion you're displaying." Jessica finally seemed to realize I wasn't going to tolerate her behavior any longer. Her tone hardened. "Richard," she snapped, accidentally using my old name perhaps. "Fine. I'm giving you a way out, and you still act like this?" "Okay, so I'm the crazy one here. But I'm telling you, this is your absolute last chance. If you miss it, you will never set foot in my family's house again, and no amount of begging will change my mind. You'd better not regret this." "Ha! Your family's house? Whoever actually wants to go in is welcome to it," I retorted, and immediately hung up. Just then, The doctor returned with my checkup results, which were all clear, but he also had the results for Sophia. He handed me her report. I glanced at it, and my hand started shaking so badly I almost dropped the paper. It clearly indicated weeks pregnant. Sophia was pregnant. I looked up, stunned, my mind completely blank for a second, then buzzing like fireworks had gone off inside my head. I hadn't reversed my vasectomy yet, but it didn't matter. This was Sophia's pregnancy, our child. I looked over at Sophia, who was waiting anxiously. When I showed her the report, her eyes widened first in disbelief, then filled with overwhelming joy. Ignoring her injured arm, she carefully launched herself into my arms, tears of happiness streaming down her face. Her excitement was infectious, and I couldn't help but smile broadly, holding her close. In the following days, we delegated as much work as possible and remained constantly by each other's side. Even though we were in the UK, Sophia's family connections meant our presence didn't go unnoticed. Paparazzi spotted us, and soon, news of our relationship and Sophia's pregnancy became major headlines back home and internationally. Predictably, soon after the news broke, Jessica began calling me incessantly, sounding almost unhinged. Her previously arrogant tone was gone, replaced by a pleading one. "Mark, where are you? I miss you. Can I come see you?" God, her persistence was infuriating. Feeling the gentle flutter of our baby against my hand resting on Sophia's belly only strengthened my resolve. I had absolutely no patience left for Jessica's drama. I hung up and blocked her number, but she was relentless, calling from different numbers until I finally had to turn off my phone altogether to get some peace. Not long after, Jessica made a public announcement on her social media claiming she had given birth to a son. Her friends commented on the post. One wrote, "Jessica, did you switch partners again? You've always been secretive, but the only one you ever publicly acknowledged was Mark, right?" Another advised, "Jessica, dear, as a friend, let me suggest you keep those kinds of casual flings private. Bringing them into the spotlight isn't very classy." Someone else asked bluntly, "Sis, are you and Mark really over? If there's any chance, maybe just swallow your pride and try to win him back. Men often soften up with a little effort." Jessica, apparently past caring about appearances, replied tersely to the last comment, "Win him back? Do you think I'm lacking options?" Meanwhile, her parents were reportedly boasting everywhere about finally having a grandson. Seeing their posts online only confirmed how blind I had been before. Honestly, their foolish attempts at manipulation didn't bother me. I just observed it all with detached amusement. A few months later, our daughter, Chloe, was born. She was tiny and beautiful, looking remarkably like a miniature version of me. Sophia held her tenderly, her eyes misty with emotion, reluctant to let her go even for a moment. Then, with my full support, Sophia made her own announcement on social media. "Yes, we have a child." She posted a photo of the three of us together, the jade ring prominent on my hand. It turned out she had deliberately ignored all the earlier rumors and speculation, waiting for the right moment, waiting for me to be ready, before confirming anything. Sophia's post exploded with positive comments. "Wow! After all these years, the elusive heiress finally settles down, and with such a big reveal. I knew Mark was the father when I saw those paparazzi shots. Congratulations!" Turning a long, rumored connection into reality and skipping straight to the baby stage. Awesome! Sophia simply replied to the flood of messages. "Thank you all for your kind wishes." Meanwhile, back home, things were apparently unraveling for Jessica. Reports surfaced of a wild scene at a high-end bar. Jessica was seen drinking heavily, reacting furiously to Sophia's announcement. Her friend Amy was there, cautiously mentioning Sophia's post. Jessica reportedly snapped, her face contorted with rage. Amy tried to backtrack. "It's okay, sis. You never really liked him anyway." Jessica screamed at her to shut up and kicked over a table, sending glass and drinks flying. Amy quietly cleaned up the mess. Amy later whispered, "Jessica, I know you spread that rumor about having a son with Leo just to get Mark's attention, but has he even contacted you? He has a child with someone else now." Hearing this, Jessica smashed her glass on the floor and held her head as if in pain. Just then, another woman named Dana, known for her dislike of Jessica, approached and taunted her. "I heard you were messing around, had an illegitimate kid, and that's why your fiancé ran off with someone better?" Fueled by alcohol and rage, Jessica lunged at Dana, throwing wild punches. Dana easily dodged the clumsy attack and landed a solid punch to Jessica's face, knocking her to the ground. "But you started it," Dana mocked, before proceeding to beat Jessica further. Onlookers watched, but didn't intervene. The once arrogant Jessica was left looking battered and humiliated. After leaving the bar, Jessica seemed to completely lose control. She staggered to the maternity center, where Sophia and I were staying with Chloe. The alcohol might have dulled her senses, but it also seemed to have stripped away her remaining pretenses. She tried to barge past the entrance, yelling at the security guards, "I'm Mark's fiancée, let me in!" They regarded her as if she were insane. Eyes red with desperation, Jessica shoved past them and burst into our private room. "Mark!" she cried out when she saw me, her voice trembling. She gestured to her bruised face. "I got beaten up. Aren't you going to do something like you used to? Can't you put something on it for the pain? And kiss me better?" she pleaded, her eyes searching mine for any sign of the old affection. I stared back at her, my expression cold, completely devoid of emotion. When I didn't react, she screamed hysterically, "Is it because I had a child with someone else? Are you just trying to spite me by having one too?" I almost laughed at the absurdity. I enunciated each word slowly and clearly. "Jessica, this is my final warning. We are finished. If you continue to harass me and my family, I will call the police." Just then, Sophia walked back into the room. Seeing her, Jessica completely lost her composure, pointing and screaming insults at Sophia, calling her a homewrecker. Sophia merely raised an eyebrow, a small smirk playing on her lips, before calmly instructing security to remove Jessica from the premises. After our maternity leave ended, Sophia and I went home with Chloe. The moment we stepped into our bedroom, Sophia playfully pushed me against the door, her breath warm against my ear, her voice a low, teasing whisper. "Mark, I've missed you." Feeling her body close, my cheeks flushed. "Stop it," I protested gently. "Chloe's still sleeping just down the hall." She only held me tighter, her voice dropping even lower. "Then we'll have to be quiet." Under the soft moonlight filtering through the curtains, our shadows merged on the wall. The next morning I woke up alone in bed. As I got up, I noticed some papers on Sophia's desk. Among them was a handwritten note in a script that looked familiar. Suddenly, I remembered a letter I had received years ago, during the darkest period of my life after my family tragedy, when I had contemplated ending things. The police had delivered it to me, an elegantly written letter, full of empathy and encouragement, a letter that had pulled me back from the brink. It had been from Sophia. But I distinctly remembered Jessica giving me that letter at the time, claiming she had written it. Recalling how Jessica and Sophia were once close friends before becoming rivals, the truth hit me with force. Jessica had passed off Sophia's heartfelt letter as her own. My youthful infatuation, the very thing that had saved me, had been built on a lie, misdirected towards the wrong person. A sudden knock at the front door pulled me from my thoughts. Peeking through the peephole, I saw Jessica standing there, persistent as ever. I hesitated, then opened the door. "Mark, I figured it out," Jessica began urgently, looking desperate. "We can just raise our kids together." I laughed out loud. "Jessica, are you serious? Still haven't sought that professional help, I see." "Mark, I was wrong before. I truly know that now. Please, just give me one more chance," she begged. Leave, Jessica. We are done, I said coldly. Noticing the faint love bites on my neck from the previous night, Jessica's eyes filled with rage. You too! She started to say more, but my icy glare silenced her. I thought she might finally give up, but the next morning, she was still standing outside the villa gates, her face swollen, looking utterly defeated. She stood motionless like a statue, clearly having spent the night there. I felt nothing. I simply closed the curtains, unwilling to look at her any longer. Later that day, I received a call from Amy, Jessica's friend. Hey, Mark? How's it going? Her voice sounded awkward. What's up? I replied curtly. And please stop calling me brother-in-law. We have no connection. I wanted nothing to do with Jessica or her circle. Well, Amy hesitated. Jessica said that Leo guy really messed things up between you two. He's gone now, she added, raising her voice slightly as if I might not care. I chuckled softly. As if Leo was the only person Jessica had been involved with. Was Amy trying to use guilt and nostalgia to manipulate me? Do you have anything else to report? I asked coldly. If not, I'm hanging up. Jessica got detained, Amy said quickly, her voice dropping. Oh, that's interesting, I replied, genuinely surprised. Amy elaborated. She tried to break up with Leo, told him the kid wasn't his. He refused to leave and demanded a share of her family's assets. So Jessica took him for a paternity test. Turns out the kid really isn't Leo's. He got furious and they had a huge fight. Remember you got Jessica into Taekwondo lessons years ago? Well, she apparently used those skills. Leo was beaten up badly enough that someone called the police. That's how Jessica ended up getting arrested. I remembered arranging those Taekwondo lessons. There had been some concerning individuals hanging around our school back then, and I worried about Jessica's safety. Ironic that she ended up using those self-defense skills on her own lover. Life certainly had a strange sense of humor. So, whose kid is it then? My curiosity got the better of me. No idea, Amy admitted. But at least we know it's definitely Jessica's. The thought almost made me laugh out loud. She had played her games so recklessly that she couldn't even identify the father of her own child. I hung up the phone, feeling a strange mix of amusement and finality. I had truly moved on. That sense of closure, however, didn't mean the end of Jessica's attempts. A few days later, she showed up at my doorstep again, looking completely exhausted and disheveled. Mark, I know I messed everything up. Please don't leave me, she pleaded, her eyes red-rimmed, her face pale. I looked at her with detached annoyance. The once vibrant, proud young woman I remembered was now a shadow of her former self. But her situation had nothing to do with me anymore. I treated her as if she were invisible and firmly shut the door. Sophia and I eventually had the wedding we both deserved. It was a beautiful, grand affair. Pure white roses decorated the entire estate gardens where the ceremony took place. All our friends and family gathered to witness our union. Sophia looked radiant as she walked down the aisle towards me in a stunning white gown. Sunlight streamed through the trees, creating a golden halo around her. In that moment, the rest of the world faded away. There was only her, and for her, only me. Sophia, will you marry me? I asked, my voice steady despite the overwhelming emotion. Through poverty or wealth, sickness or health, will you love and cherish me until death parts us? I will, she replied without hesitation, her eyes shining. We exchanged rings and vows under the open sky. Thunderous applause erupted, and fireworks painted the evening sky as we sealed our commitment. Our married life settled into a rhythm of simple, free, and happy moments with our daughter Chloe. But I knew I couldn't remain content just living comfortably in the light of Sophia's world. I still had my own dreams to pursue. I decided to fully commit to my racing career again. Sophia offered her unconditional support, both financially and emotionally. I threw myself into intense training, day after day. Sophia was always there, a quiet, steady presence, attending every race, celebrating my victories, and offering encouragement after any setbacks. Occasionally, another unwelcome presence lingered at the edges of my races, but I learned to completely ignore it. Eventually, my hard work paid off. I became the first Asian F4 racing world champion. Standing on the winner's podium, holding the championship trophy high, the cheering crowds faded into the background. The only image in my mind was Sophia's radiant, smiling face. I knew this achievement wasn't an endpoint, but just the beginning. My ambitions reached further now, towards new horizons. My story, I felt, was truly just getting started.